Hold on, let me get the recording out of the way. For attending our business meeting agenda. You are at the Florida Historical Commission on Zoom and live. And we're going to start with our call to order and roll call.
Judy Bentz, she told us that she would not be able to be here today. Steve Burtman. John Browning. Bill Clegg.
Here.
Michael Francis. Rick Gonzalez.
Present.
Matt Hudson.
Present.
Kathleen Kaufman.
I'm here.
John Phelps.
Here.
Clifford Smith.
Present.
We do have quorum.
Thank you, Sarah. That's wonderful news. I'd like you to help me also introduce the commission, the staff, and any guests online.
Okay, I guess if the commissioners want to go ahead and introduce themselves, you want to start, Rick?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am sitting in for Dr. Judy Bentz, who's our chairwoman, and I'm helping with today's meeting. I am an architect based in West Palm Beach, Florida, REG Architects for 33 years. I sit on the Florida Historic Commission as the architect of the board and former president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. And I'm also currently an expert board member for the Advisory Council of Historic Preservation in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Bill?
Good morning, everyone. I am Bill Clegg. I am one of the citizen appointees appointed by the Senate President, and I serve as the county attorney in Manatee County, Florida.
Thank you. Matt?
Hey, good morning. My name is Matt Hudson. I'm a former member of the Florida Legislature for 9 years. I'm vice president of the healthcare system and a self-proclaimed history fanatic.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Good morning. This is Kathleen Kaufman. I'm currently the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Gainesville. I'm a former Executive Director of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, former Preservation Officer for Fort Pierce, Miami, and Miami-Dade County, and sit on fairly new appointee to the Florida Historical Commission. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you.
We are also happy. John?
This is John Phelps. I'm currently serving as staff director of the Senate Rules Committee. I have worked for the Florida Legislature for over 48 years and was at one time the director of the Historic Capitol Museum and was clerk of the House of Representatives for 20 years.
Thank you, John. And then Cliff.
Yes, thank you. My name is Dr. Clifford Smith. I'm senior planner with the city of Sarasota. I do historic preservation there. I'm also the chairman of the National Review Board and a member of the Florida Historic Commission. Thank you very much. And I'm so happy to have new members on our commission and on the NR board.
Thank you, Cliff. And it looks like John has joined us. John, if you have your audio going, do you want to introduce yourself? Okay. Well, I guess we can move on to staff. Tim?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Parsons. I'm the director of the Division of Historical Resources, and I'm Florida's State Historic Preservation Officer.
This is Angela Tomlinson. I'm also in the room here in Tallahassee, assistant director. I'm Alyssa Lotane, the Bureau Chief of Historic Preservation and Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer. And Sarah Lico, I'm our program administrator and, you know, all around hand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Barton. I'm the chief of the Bureau of Historical Museums.
And I'm John Grandage, Public Engagement and Historic Sites Development Director.
And this is Catherine Miar. I'm the Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Archaeological Research and the State Archaeologist.
I'm
Okay, I
Michael
think
Hart.
John, oh, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
I'm Michael Hart. I'm the Digital Outreach Coordinator, and I'm serving as webinar technical support today.
John, would you like to introduce yourself now?
Are you talking to me now? I just got on, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I'm John Browning and from Palatka and the Commissioner, and I'm also the Florida Transportation Commissioner. Look, thank you. Sorry I'm late.
John, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How is it that you're on two commissions?
I guess that's because two different governors wanted me on different ones.
That's very interesting.
I was on three.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was asked to be on the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and I said no to them because I was already on the Historic Commission. So that's a good tip to know.
It's an old
Thank
saying,
you.
if you want to get somebody to do something, find somebody that's too busy. They're the only ones that
Very
work.
true. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair, it's Kathleen.
Yes, go ahead, Kathleen.
I just wanted to tell my fellow board members, because I totally forgot in my introduction, I'm a brand new board member to the National Organization of Camp, Council on America's Military Past. And that just happened last week.
Wonderful.
So I'm super
That's
excited
wonderful.
about that.
Exciting.
Thank you for sharing that. Maybe you and the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia can share some stories. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Anybody else, Sarah?
That's it for commissioners and staff. If there are any guests on the line who would like to introduce themselves, they can do so at this point.
Hi, my name is Hannah Crow. I am the Community Liaison for the Department of Management Services, working in the Office of the Secretary. So I'm on this call to just hear about what has been going on and supporting y'all's efforts moving forward.
Thank you so much. Secretary of State, is that correct?
No, I'm sorry. I'm the Community Liaison in the Office of the Secretary at DMS.
Oh, okay.
Department of Management Services.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. My name is Ryan Meichenhaus. I'm the Bureau Chief of Property Services within the Department of Management Services, and I have a business item today to present to the committee.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Gillespie. I'm the Deputy Secretary of Business Operations at Department of Management Services.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I guess next we'll jump towards the adoption of the agenda. If anybody has an issue, or if not, can someone make a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda as written.
Seconded.
Cliff? Second by whom?
Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Motion by Cliff, second by Matt. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, adoption of the agenda pass. Next, I have the approval of the minutes from the August 6th, 2021 board meeting. Any comments on those minutes, or can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve as presented by Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Second it.
By whom?
John Browning.
Thank you, John. Motion has been made. Any comments? Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, approval of minutes from fiscal year 2023 special category meeting.
Motion
Any
to
comments?
approve.
Yes, John? Second?
I second that. This is Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen. Any more comments? Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
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 And the last one, approval of minutes from the joint commission meeting. Any comments or a motion, please?
Move approval. This is Bill Clay.
Thank you, Bill.
Second, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Any more comments? Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is chairman's comments. Judy's not here, and I just found out about this yesterday. Don't worry, Tim, I won't say much. Nothing that I can share, other than we continue to work across the state to save our historic resources. And we hope that the state finds a way to help us save the historic Coconut Grove Playhouse down in Miami. So other than that, I don't have any other comments. Life is good right now in 2021. Dr. Parsons, you're next.
Sure. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I have a few updates. I'll try to be brief. I say that every time, and then I think I end up talking too much every time. But first, thank you to all the commissioners for being here. Thank you to the National Register Review Board. I think we had a very successful and interesting meeting yesterday. There were really some amazing properties that are going to be forwarded to the National Park Service up in DC that I hope Alyssa will give us an update on. Some of them I'm really proud to see come through our program. So we'll hear a little bit more about that later. But thanks to everyone for participating today. By way of updates, we're in DHR, just as kind of an update on our operations. We're still pretty short-staffed in some program areas. That seems to be a pretty common theme for just about almost every business everywhere right now, and I guess we're no exception. We've had trouble filling vacant positions, and we've been experiencing kind of the same phenomena that a lot of other folks have with in the modern parlance, folks kind of ghosting our interviews and things like that. So we have had luck recently, though, and we've got a couple new people on board this week and some key positions that are going to be filled, fingers crossed, in the next couple weeks. So we've been chipping away at those vacancies, and things seem to be picking up. So, I say that everybody put good vibes out in the universe in hopes that some of these positions can be filled successfully. It's that time of year where it's time to start giving legislative updates. As y'all probably know, committee weeks have started. There was a committee week last week. There is another committee week next week. Additionally, Governor DeSantis has requested that a special session be held the week of November 15th. I don't anticipate that any business related to DHR or even really the Department of State will come up in that special session. It's been requested for a different set of purposes. But I have been told that you never know what can happen during a special session. So, of course, we'll be watching that very closely to see if anything does transpire that would affect our program areas. In terms of the regular session, it's an early session this coming year. It's going to begin in January and end in March of 2022. As we talked about a little bit in our last meeting, most of our legislative priorities have had to do with deferred maintenance and operational issues. There are several things that are on our list that will hopefully be included in the governor's budget, but I know some of the biggest things are replacing old and unreliable vehicles in the Bureau of Archaeological Research and other maintenance type issues. Interestingly, and I don't know all of the details exactly yet because this is new information. Yesterday there was a meeting, and I'm going to get this name wrong because I don't watch these meetings very often, but a meeting of the Joint Legislative Budget Commission, the committee, and that's the committee that's composed of members from the House and the Senate that review budget amendments from agencies in the course of the fiscal year to approve current year budget amendments and approve additional spending authority. We had prioritized a list of deferred maintenance issues, including one that y'all are probably familiar with, which is the rethatching of the council house out of Mission San Luis, which is a fairly costly undertaking at about $800,000. I'm very happy to say, and like I said, I don't really have the details yet, but that the budget amendment that would fund that, as well as several other really large and fundamental deferred maintenance projects and historic preservation projects related to the Governor Martin House and the fort out at Mission San Luis and a few others. That budget amendment was approved by this committee yesterday. So we are going to have a number of projects going forward in the current fiscal year that we were hopeful for but hadn't even really raised too high up as an issue because we didn't know if they were going to be approved. Well, the budget amendment was approved, so myself and John Grandage in particular are going to be busy getting some of these projects ready. So more details to come. I wish I knew more, but this really just happened yesterday. So we've got to coordinate with department leadership and figure out how we're going to approach that in terms of RFPs and all that sort of thing. So that's really, really good news, and I look forward to sending out more updates about that. And we should know a lot more by the next meeting. Other legislative news to keep an eye on. This is something that Alyssa might be able to shed a little bit more light on. She's been involved in it, but I just wanted to give a quick update. House Bill 247 has been filed already. This bill, Rick, you'll be particularly interested in this. It creates a state historic preservation tax credit program.
Wow. We've been waiting 10 years for that. That's awesome.
It's been a long time coming, and a lot of people have worked very hard. It is not our bill. It's not an agency bill. But we're excited about the possibility of having a tax credit program in Florida to complement the federal historic preservation tax credit. These state tax credit programs have been really successful in 35 or 36 other states. And it would really be a remarkable victory to have one in Florida. I know Alyssa's communicated some with the folks that are running the bill. So Alyssa, if you have a couple of details you want to share, right? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but if you just want to share maybe just like a minute worth of information.
My update, and I did work heavily on it. I think, one issue is Florida does not have a state income tax, and so that was one of the challenges, which has been for many years. And so there was a group that I was involved with, the National Trust, Florida Trust, and actually a few developers even, where we sort of worked together to come up with a solution and, what tax could be offset. And based on Texas's tax credit, we decided to go with franchise tax, which is the corporate income tax that's owed every year, I think 3%. So that would be one thing that people could write off their taxes. And then the other thing is insurance premium tax, which is paid by insurance companies after they take their premiums in. And so the tax credits can be bought and sold. And this insurance company could essentially buy them for 70 cents on the dollar and help to pay their insurance premium taxes. So that's kind of the gist of it. It would be an additional 20% tax credit on top of the federal credit. So they would have to receive the federal credit in order to get the state credit and prove that to the Department of Revenue. And if they are in a designated Florida Main Street district, which we have good boundaries on, they would receive a additional 30% credit. So we don't know if it will be passed. We don't know if it will be amended. The representative who introduced the bill is Representative Salzman from Pensacola, and I know that the Florida Trust is shopping it around to try to get a senator on it, but we're not involved again in any of the advocacy, just from a perspective of making sure it is something that we could absorb as far as the department goes. It would not be a lot of extra work on our part, just signing off that we knew that the federal credit had been received, and then at least the way it's written now, the Department of Revenue would process most of the paperwork.
Well, thanks, Alyssa. So we're excited about it. I hope that they manage to find a Senate sponsor. If not, sometimes these things take a few years to get run through, but I think it would be tremendous for economic development, particularly in those Main Street communities. So fingers crossed on that. Last, in terms of legislative updates, this is really an update from Dr. Bentz, who, of course, couldn't be here today, but she asked me to kind of deliver this message to the Historical Commission, and it has to do with special category grants. Of course, Dr. Tomlinson is going to give a more thorough update on our ranking meeting and how that went. Of course, it went very well. But Dr. Bentz wanted me to let you know about a proposal that she's developed, and it developed out of a meeting that she had really between her and Secretary Lee. I was there, but it was really them that did most of the discussion. And what she would like to do is bring together stakeholders, particularly leaders of organizations from across the state, to advocate for funding for the special category grant program in the upcoming legislative session. What she proposes is forming a coalition of the Florida Historical Commission and state historic preservation organizations and archaeological organizations. And then these organizations would work together strategically at the state and local levels to advocate for special category grant funding. And of course, as a friendly reminder, DHR, we can't lobby for funds, but what we can do is facilitate meetings involving the FHC and other stakeholders And so that would be our role in the process, is kind of providing technical assistance and bringing people together. So Dr. Benz looks forward to providing a more thorough update to the Florida Historical Commission sooner rather than later. I am helping her potentially put together a meeting of organizational leadership from various nonprofits and preservation organizations from around the state. And that's kind of the stage where it is at right now. Of course, it's going to have to move quickly, so I'm going to do everything I can to help her get that done. I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but to be honest, it's really more her baby than mine. She's put a lot of thought into it, and I do wish she was here to really discuss it more thoroughly. But it's probably a good idea. So I'm real happy that she and Secretary Lee have had that discussion. I have two more things. Oh, thank you, Rick. Two more things very quickly to talk about. One is, as many of y'all know, we have been facilitating meetings of the Abandoned African American Cemeteries Task Force, which I have the pleasure of being the chair for that task force. It's really an amazing group of people. We just had our third meeting, and it was really a remarkable meeting of minds that really care about the issue of abandoned African American cemeteries about Florida. Dr. Miar, who's on this call, is also a member of the task force. And of course, it consists of subject matters from across the state. We are going to have at least one more meeting to finalize the recommendations of the task force. So the purpose of the commission is to develop recommendations to the governor and the legislature that they can consider during the next legislative session. And that would be recommendations related to the location, preservation, and memorialization of abandoned or forgotten or erased African American cemeteries in Florida. So that report is due on January 1. So I have a lot of work to do in a short period of time, which is fine. And of course, more updates will be provided. It's actually something I'm really excited about. A lot of time these task forces can be, I hate to say, almost kind of just rote, something that you do and get through. But this one has been really a great experience, and I'm really excited about working with the other task force members to finalize some recommendations. And of course, I'll be happy to distribute that report to the Historical Commission once it's completed and submitted to the legislature. The last thing on my list, everything on my list is something that somebody else is going to expand upon. So this has been a pretty easy list for me. So once again, Angie will be providing a more detailed update, but I did want to give kind of a high-level thought on the African American Cultural and Historical Grants, which, as y'all know, is a grant program that was funded by the legislature during the last legislative session. It provides $30 million to go toward African American cultural and historical resources through the Department of State, through us, and the Division of Arts and Culture. Of course, y'all were involved in the meeting a few weeks ago, and for folks that were interested, we forwarded the names of commissioners that were interested in being on the board to Secretary Lee, and she wrote letters and mailed letters this week that would appoint not just Historical Commission members, but all the other members to the review panel for that grant program.
Nice.
So be on the lookout for letters if you expressed interest. I imagine if you don't have them yet, have them by the end of the week. Well, that's today. So it's been a long week, everybody.
Yeah.
So hopefully y'all have those. Just so you know, the grant application cycle is open. I was told yesterday there are 72 or 76 as of yet, not completed, not submitted, but at least started applications, which, to be honest, is already more than we anticipated seeing. So this is great news, but I'm also sorry. It's going to be a lot of work, but hopefully it'll be enjoyable work, and it'll certainly be a worthwhile experience. I know we're all excited about seeing how it transpires and what the applications look like. So Mr. Chair, that concludes my update. I'm happy to answer any questions about this or any other topic.
Thank you, Tim. I have two quick questions for you. A clarification first. The board members of the FHC can lobby. That's correct, right?
That's correct.
Not the staff. Okay, so board members, please feel free to lobby. And second, I was wondering if you could give us an update on our dire needs for architects. We have 2 openings. Have we been able to fill any of them?
Alyssa, would you like to give that update, or would you like me to give that update?
Go ahead, Tim.
Unfortunately, the long and short of it is we, like some of these other positions, we haven't had success in filling that position.
Okay, has the
I'm
state,
also-
has the state considered maybe using a consultant services? You know, that's something that's at the municipal and county level, a lot of people are doing these days. This is food for thought.
Yeah, we have looked into that. That's it's a great idea. It's something that we've done before for IT services. This is kind of a long story short inside baseball thing, but we just have to be cognizant of our budget capabilities because that's definitely something that is a lot more expensive than hiring a staff member.
Okay, I just encourage
We're also looking for a historic preservationist to fill the other position, which will work in compliance review and help review tax credits. Right now, we're making it through them. I'm reviewing them currently, and but we're still trying. One position is out there right now.
Okay, but we really need an architect. How long has it been since we've been with an architect and the commission?
Too long.
Way too long. Thank you.
January.
Yeah, that's not good. You know, I mean, sometimes we're the only source of advice for small communities and nonprofits, and we're not serving the state of Florida if we don't have that expertise available. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else comments or questions for our director? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9, committee reports. We'll start first with the Bureau of Architectural Research and Updates. Meyer?
Hi, thank you. I'll be brief and just give some updates across our 3 different programs, which is public lands archaeology, underwater archaeology, and our collections conservation program. We're in the process of hiring 2 new technician positions, an archaeological technician for our public lands archaeology program and a curatorial technician in collections. Those have been vacant for a while and hoping to fill that soon. In public lands archaeology, we've very successfully had our first virtual archaeological resource management training, which is a very important training for land managers. It helps them manage their lands and also gives them insight into how to identify archaeological sites and best management practices for those sites. And this was done in conjunction with the State Parks archaeologist Phil Stanton, and we had over 152 participants and with very good reviews. So that was very successful. Usually this is an in-person training. And so we had to, of course, modify that and be flexible with the times. And so another virtual training is being scheduled within the next month or so. We've also been worked very closely with FWC law enforcement in our public lands archaeology program and underwater archaeology program. And we've been fostering that partnership and building upon it. And actually, we just had a meeting with FWCLE, and they requested the development of a specialized course and training for their officers, for select few officers to develop expertise in archaeology and cultural resource crimes. So they're basically going to have regional officers that have these specialized techniques. They're going to get hands-on training, really go out to sites, see what these looting cases look like, get more artifact identification, information training. And they're going to be the go-to guys within FWC law enforcement that the other officers will also go to as well to facilitate and tackle these crimes. And so it's already been very successful, our partnership with them, and I think this is just going to further that. In the underwater archaeology program, we've been really ramping up on grant work associated with the Shifting Shorelines project, which was a Florida DEP grant that we had received. And so they're very close to finalizing the survey plan to collect data around the entire circumference of the barrier island in order to identify submerged historical archaeological sites and inundated pre-contact landscapes. They've also been conducting isotopic analyses of marine materials such as oyster shells that were from the Minnesota Key offshore excavation. And they've been partnering with the University of Alabama as part of this grant as well for that. And we're getting really interesting results coming out of that. And one of our underwater archaeologists was just interviewed, and that interview is a part of an article about the Panhandle Shipwreck Trail, and it was recently published. And the Panhandle Shipwreck Trail allows divers and non-divers alike the opportunity to learn about Florida's maritime heritage, by way of significant historic shipwrecks along the northern Panhandle. So it's a great program. And then within our collections conservation program, we've actually been working really closely with the University of Florida and Florida State University to try and unify split legacy collections that had been split, over the years between those three institutions, since the state archaeological collections were housed in different iterations, sometimes at University of Florida, sometimes at FSU before it was fully established. We had our collections laboratory here in Tallahassee. And particularly, we are focusing on collections that have NAGPRA significance, and NAGPRA is an acronym for the Native American Graves Protection Repatriation Act. And this is a request that kind of came from the tribes, since tribal nations have been trying to repatriate many human remains and funerary objects. And some of these objects and collections are split between institutions, so they have to go through extra steps for repatriation. So it makes sense for all these institutions to start getting together and mend and unify these split collections with whatever institution has the majority of it. And so that's what we're in the process of doing. So it's been very successful so far. And also we have some items that are about to go on exhibit that are almost done with conservation. We have a couple really awesome brown bess muskets from the storm wreck site, and it's almost near completion. They're going to go on exhibit at St. Augustine Lighthouse and Museum. And we've also really had an increase in researchers lately, including Judy Benz, to access our collections, and I'm doing some really exciting research over there. And then in regards to, Tim already gave an update. I'm a part also of the African American Abandoned Cemeteries Task Force, and so that has been a wonderful task force to be a part of, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. But we've also been, in regards to 872 and unmarked burials, we successfully conducted 2 reburials of Native remains under that statute, and I have also addressed about 32 additional human remains cases across the state since our last meeting in August. So it's been busy. And I think that's it for my update. If there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Any questions for Catherine? Thank you again. Okay, we'll move on to Alyssa Lotane, Bureau of Historic Preservation updates. Before we do so, I want to congratulate Alyssa on her chapter number 3 in the new book on Spanish missions of Florida. So congratulations on that, Alyssa.
Thank you so much. And just a little plug for that. The book is called Unearthing the Missions of Spanish Florida. It's a follow-up to the edited volume that Monty McEwen did in the 1990s. It was edited by Tanya Perez, and also my major professor while I was at FSU, Dr. Rochelle Marin, and is well known with her research on Spanish missions. And I was lucky enough to be asked, along with a couple other employees, Nick Yarbrough and Gary Lee, work for the Bureau of Archaeological Research, to do a chapter, and mine is based on my 2006 master's thesis. So check it out if you'd like. If you're interested in missions, really proud of it, and my first published item. So thank you very much, Rick.
I should point out, this is Tim, that I just saw a comment on Facebook last night where someone called Alyssa's thesis, I think it was brilliant. Yeah. I forget who it was, but it must. I will be honest. I have not read it. But it sounds like it is an excellent.
Well,
wonderful.
I think most people don't have their thesis published, so I think I was very lucky to have a topic that people were interested in and continue to be interested in. A mission site in Jefferson County that was excavated by Calvin Jones in the 1970s. Just units there, and sort of just never analyzed everything. So very proud of it. Thank you, Rick. All right, I will jump in, and I will say, I don't think in my 10 years as bureau chief, I have ever been so proud of all the big projects that we have going on. There is just a huge amount of things that have sort of come to fruition that I'll go through here. I will say, Tim mentioned staffing. We have actually been down, believe it or not, 8 positions, not including our admin position. So I have devoted a lot of my time to trying to get those positions filled, and we are very close. We just hired one this week, compliance review. We have another DOD reviewer coming on November 15th, and a couple more in process for later this month. 5 of those 8 positions were in the compliance and review section, and if you don't know much about compliance review, we review over 10,000 federal and state projects undertaking or impacts to historic and cultural resources every year. So we have a staff of 12 people when we're fully staffed, and a supervisor, 5 of those, including the supervisor, had been vacant. So we're also in process. We've selected a supervisor and just have not announced it yet. So excited to get those finished, and also we've got an NR reviewer position that we'll be advertising again, and also I'll be looking for a Main Street assistant. Unfortunately, our Florida Main Street assistant, Laura Saccone, who some of you met through the Main Street Conference and Florida Trust Conference, put in her 2 weeks on Wednesday, so she's going out to the private sector to do bigger and better things, and we will miss her definitely. But if you know anybody that is looking for a preservation job, definitely send their resume my way.
Okay.
As usual, yes.
No,
Okay.
I'm just okay to the resumes.
Okay. So as usual, I'll start out with the site file. As of October 31st, we were just shy of 236,000 resources recorded in the Florida Master Site File. We have vastly increased our numbers based on some grant-funded surveys that we've input, and also 9,000 site forms, which came from Sarasota County's, or Sarasota survey, City of Sarasota survey. 7,000 of which were newly recorded resources. So that is a big process that has happened. Also, I want to highlight the site file for their work on our historic cemetery inventory initiative. And that's something that I have kind of been working on for maybe a few years now, trying to get it to come to fruition. And because of the African American Cemeteries Task Force that Tim mentioned, we were able to work with the Florida Public Archaeology Network. And what we basically have done is we have created a website on FPAN's website. And let me see if I can get that website for you. It's very short. It's fpan.us/HCI, which is for Historic Cemetery Inventory. And then we have a sort of postcard that people can send back in. And it has very minimal information that we ask for about the location of cemeteries. You know, what's the closest address? Do you have the GPS coordinates? You know, what dates do you see on the headstones? What condition is it in? You can circle 5 different things. So it's really simple. And what we're trying to do is get this information out to people who may know where a lot of these unrecorded cemeteries are. It only takes, you know, 1 known grave to record a historic cemetery. And so our task force has been circulating these postcards and the website, and we're starting to get a lot of them in. Some of them already recorded, which is fine. The process is that we get them in and site file checks to see if they're recorded already. If they are, we just get back to the person that recorded, that sent in, and we say, hey, thank you so much for your information. You know, we've got it recorded. Do you want to tell us anything else? If not, we send it over to FPAN, and they assign it to someone who is in their district, in their area. And they will work with the person directly to fill out the longer 2-page site form. So we're really excited about what is to come. We think this is not just something that, you know, is a result of the task force, but something will go on for many, many years and be an asset. We think that there are, I think, 5,000 to 6,000 cemeteries that are unrecorded in the state. So if you know where any of them are, if you like some of the cards or you know, anything to send out to people, we'd love to provide those to you. Next, I'll move to Florida Main Street. We had our Main Street Selection Committee about 2 weeks ago, and we have 3 new prospective Main Street communities. We need the Secretary of State to sign off on them. We're working on that right now, waiting on that.
And the three communities are Goldsboro, which is a community in West Sanford in Seminole County, and it was incorporated as a town in 1891 by the Freedmen's Bureau, which made it the second African-American settlement incorporated in the state of Florida. It was unincorporated in 1911, but they still have a very tight-knit community there, and so we're really happy that they've decided to join us. The other second one, which you are probably familiar with, is Opelika, which is in Miami-Dade County, and it's the town that has the Arabian Nights architecture. And then the third one is Palmetto, which is in Manatee County, which is on the Manatee River. And we have recently had Monticello rejoin the program, which brought us to 51 Florida Main Streets. And then once we add these additional 3, we'll be up to 54. We are continuing to work on the Main Street Conference into Land for next summer. And then mark your calendars for January 18th of 2022 is Main Street Day on the Capitol. So the Main Street program has reserved the rotunda of the Capitol, and all the Main Street organizations from around the state plan to come and advocate for Main Street on that day, January 18th. Next, I'll move to National Register. The National Register Review Board met yesterday. Thanks to those of you who were involved and who are on the board for your time. The agenda yesterday included Livingston Place in Monticello vicinity in Jefferson County. Also, Okahumpka Rosenwald School, which is a project I'm really excited about. It's one of about 23 of the Rosenwald schools that are left, and they have a lot of local community support. It's also on the 11 to Save list for the Florida Trust. The Hampton House Hotel in Miami, which has been a great project several times. I started watching last night and fell asleep one night in Miami, a new movie. It's actually, I think it is partially filmed at the Hampton House. And really excited to have that in the process for the National Register. Baptist Terrace in Orlando is a pending tax credit project. The Perry House in Lakeland is just an incredible mid-century house, which the owners live in, but it is just immaculately preserved, mid-century with furniture and everything. Just amazing. The Markowitz House in Sarasota, another mid-century house. The Sarasota Garden Club, and then the St. Augustine Beach Hotel, and the beach. So it was where the St. Augustine wade-ins occurred in St. Augustine. So just a really incredible agenda we had yesterday. All of them passed the board, all of the nominations. And then we did have a review for a request for determination of eligibility, and that was for the Boca Grande Residential Historic District. I won't go into too much detail, but there was opposition to listing the historic district in Boca Grande, and that ultimately did not pass. I believe it was for incompleteness of the nomination. So that was the agenda for yesterday. Unfortunately, I thought I printed out the previous agenda. I know that we had all of the ones from the August 8th meeting have been listed on the National Register except for one. So if you'd like that list, I can email me and I can provide that. Let's see. We're continuing to work. I mentioned compliance and review. We're continuing to work on a lot of disaster projects with the Department of Economic Opportunity. Another thing I am really proud of, you've probably heard that we received funds from the National Park Service for Hurricane Michael disaster recovery for historic properties. And the division did subgrant the majority of those funds, but we felt that it was really important to survey some of those counties. Some of those panhandle counties had 0.04% of historic properties surveyed. And so we took the initiative to actually, with Hurricane Michael funds, put out RFPs for 6 counties. And we have awarded 4 of them. LG2 is our consultant for Calhoun, Gulf, and Liberty County. And so they will be in the process of going out and doing public meetings with locals. And that process will be over on September 30th of 2022. They'll have that survey completed. We have also contracted with JMT, which is a CRM firm, and they will do Jackson County, the full county. We have just released RFPs to do the same thing in Franklin and Wakulla counties. Because we were running a little short of funds to do these two, we decided to do the unrecorded resources in all of Franklin County. And then also Wakulla County, we're doing everything but a recent coastal survey that was accomplished by Paleo West and completed earlier this year in 2021. In addition to that, we put out an RFP for $50,000 for a consultant to survey rural, agricultural, and underserved resources in Gadsden County, resources that are unrecorded. And so we received proposals for that. We've actually contracted for that. Everything is signed, and they'll be moving forward with that. And I think that's my entire report, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Alyssa, so much. Very detailed report. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
That was very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You do have a lot going on.
Thank you. We really do. I think in all of my years, this is sort of the biggest stuff too. You know, not just a lot, but big things. It's a really good time for preservation right now. You know, and with the grants that have come out and everything.
Busy, crazy. You know, I was just thinking, like a little heads up, if the Florida Historic Tax Credits pass, is there any way we can get more money for the Department of Historic Resources? Because it sounds to me like you're going to get a wave of additional work on top of everything that you're doing.
The way it was explained to me, there initially was a little bit of funding that was included in the bill draft for staffing. And
Okay.
the way it was explained to me is if we ask for additional staffing, it has to be a separate bill.
Well, we should try to get someone to do that for you, because I hate for you to have to do that in a couple of years with the same amount of people that you have right now.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's set up, we would basically just sign off on a form, you know, for each project that said, yes, we know that it's a National Park Service approved it, and we're okay with revenue giving you tax credit. But you are correct that it would vastly increase the number of projects, because right now we're getting maybe, you know, three applications a month. You know, there's three parts to the application. So when I say that, I mean like a part, three of those sort of every month. And I would expect that it would just, you know, snowball once it gets going.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Okay, since no other comments for Alyssa, can we jump to Ms. Tomlinson and the grants program updates?
Yes, hi, everyone. I actually don't have a lot that you're not already aware of to report, because this is the slower period of grants, because we've made it through our grant application cycle. We are still busy because of the African American Cultural and Historical Grant Program, which I'll talk about in just a second. Just a thank you again to everyone on the commission for participating in the ranking and reviewing of the special category grants on September 28th and 29th. That was, I think, a really good meeting. Not a lot of issues, technical or otherwise, that arose, so thank you again. You did review 80 applications at that meeting, and only 3 fell below the scoring threshold of 80. So 77 projects were forwarded to the Secretary of State for consideration. She has approved the recommended funding list, and that was included in your board materials that Sarah emailed earlier. If you, for some reason, don't have a copy or need extra copies, we can send those as well. They are posted. The recommended funding list is posted on our grants website as well. The total amount of funding for those 77 projects that it will move forward for legislative consideration is just over $21 million for the 77 projects.
That is slightly higher than the last couple of years, and I think that's probably, last year it was 14.9 million. I think that's probably reflective of the fact that the last 2 years, either due to gubernatorial veto or no funding from the legislature, we did not receive special category funding. So we did have a lot of projects, as you know, from reviewing them this year, that were repeat applications. So I think that just, increased the amount of total funding over the last couple of years. But anyway, we're hopeful that we'll get funding, and I know that Dr. Bentz's initiative may help with that as well, if that moves forward. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, how can the rest of the board help you assure that we get this funding? Because we really need it, and we don't need another $0 or $5 million a year. We need 20 million like the old days.
Rick, I think that's exactly what Dr. Bentz has in mind. And
okay.
So, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I really wish she was here today to talk more about that, but that's specifically what her plan addresses, is to, try to help ensure that the program is funded certainly above and beyond the last couple of years, but even more than it has been a few years before that. So, but in general, the best thing to do is for historical commissioners to talk to legislators. I think that Dr. Bentz's plan will really bring together kind of historic preservation leadership from across the state to work with the FHC. So I'm excited to see what she has in mind.
I'm looking forward to that. That's great news, Tim. Go ahead, Ms. Tomlinson.
So yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. I think the other main update I wanted to give, not in great detail because you did have a joint meeting with the Florida Council on Arts and Culture in October regarding the African American Cultural and Historical Grant Program. Just as a refresher, this program, it was included as a proviso in the 2021 legislative budget, but the purpose of it generally writ large is to fund construction projects at facilities in Florida that highlight the contributions, culture, and history of African Americans. So that's pretty broad. As long as we've been getting staff in DHR and in Cultural Affairs because our division of, their name is now the Division of Arts and Culture. We're co-managing this program because the funding is not to one division specifically, it's to the Department of State. And so we're going to be getting projects that are new construction related to cultural sites. It's not just going to be historic preservation. Once the applications come in, the divisions are going to have to, do that, review those applications to figure out which projects, if funded, would be managed by which division. But that will happen after we get the applications in. As Tim said, the application cycle is open. It will close on November 30th. At 5 p.m. All of the program guidelines and application template example are on our website. We can share that link with you if you want it. Just let Sarah know. Actually, as of this morning, I think when I looked, there were just over 80 applications in process. That won't mean that they'll all get submitted. Some of them are just in preparing stage and won't get to the end and click submit. But it is looking like it will be it's a program that people are really interested in, and we expect we will get quite a few applications, probably on par with our special category applications, which usually are in the 80 to 100 range as well. The timeline generally, just so you know, applications due November 30th. We're going to try and do an expedited staff review in the month of December. Obviously, that's a holiday month, and people, including applicants, will be, out as well. But we're going to do it like we do our normal staff review, which is, review the applications for eligibility, completeness, potential non-allowables, reach out at least once to the applicant to give them a chance to address any questions, and then hopefully be able to release the applications and staff review to the panel that the Secretary appoints in early January, and we've targeted February, mid to late February for the actual public meeting. for the review of those applications. We don't have a specific date right now, but that's sort of the general timeline. And one thing to note, this funding, because it was in the 2021 budget, we know we have the legislative funding for this. So once the applications are ranked and approved by the secretary, we can start working this fiscal year on getting those applications the grant award agreements for the funded projects, moving this fiscal year. So that's sort of just a general update on that program. If there are any questions I can address related to special category or that program, I will.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Ms. Tomlinson, board members? Okay, seeing none, we are going to the final section of our agenda, the business items. We'll start with Mr. Meichenhaus on the Capitol Complex update.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. Is the host able to allow screen sharing? I have a presentation to show the commission.
Made your co-host.
Okay, I'm got it. It's coming up. Okay, is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
And it is the full PowerPoint, correct? Just a screen of the Florida Capitol Memorial POW MIA Chair of Honor?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Commission, and good morning. Thank you for your time today. DMS, specifically, I am here today to update you on monuments and memorials at the Florida Capitol. Specifically, we'll be asking for the Commission's input on the size and location of the POW MIA Chair of Honor Memorial. As a reminder, Florida statutes requires DMS to seek the Commission's recommendations on design and placement of memorials being installed on the Capitol grounds. The Historical Commission is uniquely qualified to make such recommendations based on a memorial's historical significance. DMS looks to gain the Commission's input as we present the next few slides on the memorial's location, size, and design. Part of this evaluation and comment DMS seeks from the Commission are comments on the recommended height and size of the memorial, general design idea, as well as placement at the Capitol complex. Immersive experiences perfectly fill the attraction to the visitors to the Capitol complex. The construction above the Senate and House garages has provided an opportunity to reimagine the use of the complex grounds. These spaces will now allow visitors to traverse the grounds and provide a more immersive experience at the Capitol. As you can see in the graphic, we are working to push most of the memorials to the edges of the complex to keep spacing closest to the buildings available for gatherings. Related to this memorial in a similar fashion, a dedication ceremony for the POW MIA Bracelet Memorial was held at the established Vietnam Memorial at 401 South Monroe Street on September 17th, 2021. The memorial was donated by Vietnam veterans of America Big Bend Chapter 96. And I state that because DMS's recommended placement of this newer memorial has a significance with the Bracelet Memorial. Enacted in 2014 by the legislature, the intent of the memorial is to recognize and honor the sacrifices endured by members of the armed forces of the United States who were held as prisoners of war or remain missing in action. The recommended chair dimensions are 20 inches deep, 24 inches wide, and 34 inches high. The granite pedestal dimensions are 32 inches deep by 32 inches wide and about 4 inches high. And the total weight of the chair and the base are expected to be less than 1,000 pounds. The chair itself will be polished black granite engraved with the POW MIA logo. Alongside the chair will be a plaque, seen here, which will be mounted on an aluminum black pedestal. And these pictures were provided by Rolling Thunder Chapter 8 of Florida. The recommended location the DMS is proposing is the east side of the Senate Plaza, located here on this picture. And specifically on site, this is looking, we recommend the placement of the chair to point east toward the Florida Vietnam Veterans Memorial and POW MIA Bracelet Memorial to show a significance of sort of how they interact with one another. And we thought that would have some significance to those two monuments sort of paying tribute to one another. And with that, wanted to turn it over to the commission for any questions or comments related to our recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Meichenhaus. Commission members, any questions or comments on the presentation? Okay, thank you again. Beautiful update. Oh, is there a question, John?
Yes, Rick, this is John Phelps. I just had.
You're breaking up, John.
I believe. Am I really? Sorry. Is this better?
I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
Okay, let me change what I'm doing here for a second.
Is anybody else having a problem with the voice?
Yeah,
I can't hear John either.
Yeah.
it's sounding kind of garbled.
Hey, John, you're not coming across, John. Your connection.
Hang on a second. Yeah.
If it
Maybe
would help.
text
Yeah,
the question to staff. Yes. Try again, John.
Does that work?
No,
No.
not working. Not working. You can text a question to Sarah, and then Sarah can have Ryan answer.
Or I believe there's a chat feature here on Zoom
Yeah.
that may be available.
That's what I meant, through the chat room.
Placement. The question is the placement consistent with the original memorial area designation?
Yeah, thank you, John, for the question. Yes, so is what I've seen. I apologize, I'm getting some feedback.
Can we put on mute, please?
Thank you all. Yes, John, thank you for the question. So as I've come into this role, I've seen that the layout for the proposed memorial locations has changed slightly over time. And yes, the memorial is generally in the approved area based on the map provided in slide 3. And that's why in the notation we put that most memorials will go in those locations. This one is still a little removed from the defined area, but it is not encroaching on the public space that we wanted to leave available for the public gathering locations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can.
I've reset some of my stuff going on at our end. Yes, I think that was mainly my question. If you would go back to the slide that showed the original memorial layout. Yeah, right there. That's good.
Yes, sir.
I thought where you were putting it appeared to be in the public open space, not the memorial space.
Yes, sir. So when we met on site, myself and some other DMS management, we did know that that was a consideration. And we did note that on your screen there, it does appear on the green area. However, the significance that we thought would be a neat interaction with the other Vietnam memorial would provide some better context for it. And I believe that the site map was a general sort of direction to try to place memorials, not a set in stone definitive. They all have to be placed within those zones, if that makes sense. But if it is the commission's wishes, we can look at other locations to ensure that it lines up with this map if you'd like.
Is it possible for you to put a pointer or something on the map so that we all see exactly what you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Let's see, I can, actually this slide will show it a little better. So to John's point, where the red arrow is pointing, that is some of that green space that was discussed on slide 3. I believe the original intent was there on the south side of the building, there where the wall is, that the memorials were planned south of that on the Senate side. However, as you can see, the red arrow on the screen currently available is a little bit north of that wall, that invisible wall, if you will, heading east and west.
Well, I think the policy question really is not so, I understand the context point that you make about facing the Vietnam Memorial, but the policy question is, do we want to start intruding into what are previously designated as public areas where the flow of traffic might be impeded by not just this memorial, which really is rather, I think it's beautifully done. It's a very nice presentation, but would that open the door to larger memorials that might begin to impede the traffic in those areas and make it less logical with respect to its original purpose?
Yes, sir, and I understand that thought, and I struggled with the same question earlier in this process, but I do know that it was noted in the presentation that we said most memorials. I'm happy to go back to the drawing board and look for different sites on site. I think there are a few different options, but I think when this one presented itself to us, we thought that would be the best for this specific memorial. But again, if it is in the best interest of the long-term site plan, we can definitely look at a new location and present that to the committee for consideration.
Well, I may be the only one concerned about this on the part of the commission, and that would be fine, but I would appreciate looking at alternative sites just for terms of future planning for this entire site, which is relatively new. So
we can do that.
And
if the rest of the
Ryan,
commission
I
would
concur
concur.
with John. I think that, the legislature, who knows what the legislature might decide to enact upon to create a new memorial or tribute to a particular cause. And so I think thinking about that long-term thing in terms of the flow of things and what the overall plan for the usage of the space long-term is important. I think, as I can certainly tell you, sometimes legislators are fickle. So you never know what might come down the road and what might be in the big plan of things. So I think keeping a good flowway, I think, is important. Just as you think about as you were moving things out of the Capitol courtyard and whatnot, to keep that space positive, I think thinking about it long term, keeping the flowway good is also important. So I agree with John.
I agree with both of you too. That's a good suggestions.
Okay, all noted, and we will go back to that and we will provide a few different recommendations soon. One thing I was hoping to do, I was working with a contact with Rolling Thunder Chapter 8, and he was really interested in moving this along. So for my knowledge, would proposed new locations need to be considered at the next meeting, or is there something we could maybe pull together in the interim so that we don't wait another 3 months if possible?
We can, this is Sarah, we can do a teleconference and just, if you can let us know maybe about at least maybe 3 weeks in advance, because I'll poll the commissioners and see what times they can do, and then we can get it on their calendar to just do a phone call just for that.
Okay, that would be great. And I really appreciate all the time today.
Thank you, sir. That sounds great. Thank you.
Rick, could I mention one more thing? This is not a criticism at all, but I think if I understood the presentation correctly, there will be a small aluminum engraved sign next to the chair. Is that correct?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yes. That strikes me as something that could be a little bit less able to withstand weather and possible being knocked around. It just strikes me as if it's going in the ground somewhere close to the chair, is that going to be sufficiently uh, rigid or sufficiently
Mr. Mike
firm
House,
in its
maybe it could be incorporated into the bench, Mr. Mike House.
That's what I was thinking, Rick. If there would be a way without diminishing, of course, the purpose and something perhaps on the side or on the seat itself probably would not be appropriate. But if you could look at other ways to incorporate the signage
Integral.
on this, that would be more durable. Maybe I should say.
Okay, we'll look into those, and that's a great point, and we'll take that back and work with the member that I've been discussing this with, and try to work through some different design options to ensure they can withstand weather and people.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Rick, if I could say one last thing.
Yes.
On a pedestal, you know,
Hold
you
on.
might have it on a pedestal by the chair. That way it's not something people are going to tramp all over or hang on.
Okay, let's not design this. Let's just let Ryan take it back to his team and come back with our concerns answered. There was someone else that had a comment?
No, I just, this was Matt, and I just wanted to say, Ryan, despite our discussions on this, we do appreciate the work that's been done, and also recognize that, you know, having it face the existing memorial across the street certainly was well intended, obviously, and a way to keep the spirit of that is certainly important, I think.
Well said. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and then we're going to move on to our dates for upcoming meetings. So Sarah, I'll give it back to you.
Yes. Okay, these are the tentative dates for next year, and I talked to Ruben, so these are, again, in tandem with the National Register meetings like we've been doing the last couple of years. So your National Register meetings will be on Thursday and SHC meetings on Friday. So the dates for those meetings for next year, again, tentative, let us know if you have any issues with any of them, but put them on your calendars if you can. February 3rd and 4th, May 5th and 6th.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry. February 3rd and 4th, May 5th and 6th.
Okay.
August 4th and 5th. And November 3rd and 4th.
Thank you.
This is Angie. I'd just like to add, usually the special category meeting is a standalone meeting, and it's usually in the last week of September. We haven't set a specific date, but kind of look at your last end of September calendars as well when you're looking at these dates.
Okay. Okay, any other business, board members or staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have one additional order of business. One thing that we forgot to add to the agenda, which is my own fault, is that we now have a third bureau. As everyone knows, we've been undergoing this transition where the historical museums in Florida have been transitioning under the Division of Historical Resources, where they used to be and where they are now once again. But we're still kind of waiting on the final confirmation. You know, the legislature approved everything we needed to do, and now there's just all the bureaucracy and paperwork between state agencies. But if you would so indulge us, if we could give about 5 minutes to Lisa Barton, who is our Bureau Chief of Historical Museums, we'd love to start giving updates on our museum activities to the Historical Commission.
That would be fine.
All right, thank you all so much. I'm Lisa Barton, and I'm just very honored to oversee our wonderful Department of State Museums, which include the Museum of Florida History, the Knott House Museum, Mission San Luis, and the Growth Museum. Probably all or most of you are already familiar with the museums and how they go about sharing Florida's history with the public. So I'll just give you a brief update on what's been happening at each site. The Museum of Florida History is in full swing with its monthly programs and tours and special events. There's an upcoming on-site program on November the 18th, which is about the history of the Equal Rights Amendment. And this is presented in conjunction with the current temporary exhibit, which is Beyond the Vote, Florida Women's Activism. And I encourage you to come and see that exhibit if you haven't already. And it's on view until January 23rd. Also, Mission San Luis is going strong with numerous group tours, workshops, programs for students, and special events. The long-standing annual event Blessing of the Animals was held on October 2nd, and more than 500 people and 200 pets came to the site that day. So it was a really fun day for everybody. And also out at the Mission, the volunteer and intern program is also getting back into gear, which is really good to see. The Grove Museum continues to offer guided tours to the public and to scheduled groups, and several regular programs such as story time and nature walk are back. The Grove Museum is also continuing to offer virtual programming in order to extend its reach beyond Tallahassee. The Grove will celebrate actually 5 years of being open to the public as a museum this coming March. So that is something that we're all proud of. You can stay connected with what is happening and going on at the museums through each one's website and through their social media channels. And I would be happy to provide more information about any of the museums if needed, or arrange a tour of any of you would like to come by for a visit. That concludes my report.
Fantastic. Any other, I have one small other business, but does anybody else have any other business? Okay, I have been invited to speak at the UNESCO's 10th anniversary conference on historic places and landscapes. It's going to be at the Cathedral Mesquite. It was going to be next month, but the Spaniards sometimes they need more time to plan things, so they postponed it to March. And I'm giving 2 presentations, one on Havana, which is going to be called SOS Havana, about Havana and the situation there over the last several years, the decay and in terms of everything, politics, buildings, and people. But the more important one, where I'm asking for help from board members and staff, is the second talk through John Reagan in St. Augustine, and Francisco Gotard, a Spaniard that has come to Florida quite a bit to try to do business between Spain and Florida. One of the things that he's been working on with the Catholic Church in Spain and other groups is an idea that he mentioned about a year ago in terms of you all might be familiar with the Camino Santiago, which is the walks from northern France and northern Spain to Santiago Compostela. A similar idea in Florida, and the idea that he presented to me was the idea of the missions of Florida, from Pensacola, Tallahassee to San Agustin, and also from South Carolina south to San Agustin, to try to see if there's an interest with support from Spain to develop this concept, on obviously not on I-10 and not on I-95, but to see if this germ of an idea might take on. So it's quite a challenge. I have an associate here in my office who's been helping me put together this presentation. Alyssa's book, the timing of her book is wonderful, so hopefully we can get some more information there. But we have a lot of great minds in this board and on staff. And as we develop the outline of the PowerPoint, I would love to share it with all of you to see if you can give me input. I am not an expert on this subject matter at all, but give me a microphone and I will talk about anything that has to do about historic preservation. So I'm hoping that you'll all be willing and able to help me do a good job. Both talks, I will start with the state of historic preservation in America, a little bit on the ACHP, and then a lot of time on the FHC and the Florida Trust, so that we can get the word out on what we're doing in our beautiful state to people from around the world. So just wanted to share that with everyone.
Rick, this is Angie. Could I address something you just brought up?
Yes, Andy.
Yeah, you probably don't know this, but as part of like a grant-funded project, maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, the division did develop some materials related to the Camino Real in North Florida, between Tallahassee and St. Augustine. So we can send you we developed a brochure and rec cards. It's very basic. It doesn't get into like all the specific Caminos missions, but it can be a starting point for you. And we'll get that to you to help develop your talk.
Thank you so much. It's a 45-minute presentation with 15 Q&A, so we won't be able to get too deep into the woods, but I mean, any heads nodding out there? Do you think this is a crazy idea? Is this an interesting idea? I mean, has anybody been to Spain? And it's on my bucket list. I haven't done the Spain one, but okay, good. Thank you, Matt and John.
I love that idea.
Thank you.
I just want to offer that now that it's been postponed to March, I could probably devote some time to helping you. So when you said December, that was kind of tough, but I'm glad they bumped it out, and I'm happy to help with anything that you need.
Thank you. And one area would be with the deputy SHPOs of Georgia and South Carolina. You know, if you can help me a little bit with their contacts and whatever they might have available to start developing the framework. But I really appreciate everybody's words of encouragement. Thank you. Okay, any other public business from anyone else? All right, any public comments? Anybody from the public want to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, it's almost 11 a.m. and I would like to hear a motion, hopefully for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Second by Matt. Thank you so much. Any more comments? None. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, everybody. Have a nice weekend. Good
do
talk.
the
Good seeing
same.
you all.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Hi, thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, thank you.